Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Thank you very much. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you very much as well. Thank you for your support. Got a few people tuning in already, which is great. A few comments. Hello, Sharon, Mark, Stephen. Thank you for your comments already. For those of you who don't know, I'm Rich. I run the Hard Compound. We're like a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, 4 wheels, 2 wheels, open wheels, tin tops, everything in between and outside of that bracket as well. News and articles, and we also provide some online backing for some of the best young racing drivers that we have in the UK. As you have probably gathered, we do live interviews. Just to give you, these are all saved on our Facebook page, our Twitter feed, and on our YouTube channel. Search The Hard Compound, all one word, on Facebook and on Twitter, and you'll find us. We're also on Instagram, at The Hard Compound, all one word, and YouTube, The Hard Compound, 3 words. Sign up, subscribe, and all the interviews are on there, but do it after we finish tonight. Just to give you an idea of who we've spoken to, if you like your racing to be open wheels, we've spoken with the likes of Danny Sullivan just last week, Indy 500 winner and IndyCar champion, 85 and 88 respectively. We've also spoken with Derek Warwick, ex-Formula One driver, winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and Ari Leyendijk, double Indy 500 winner. And we had the honour and the privilege in February of speaking with the legend that is Mario Andretti, which was absolutely fantastic. If you prefer 2 wheels, we've spoken with Bjorn Esmond and Shane Byrne from the British Superbike Championship, which was terrific. Great to have Shaky on. If you like your cars to have roofs, you're in luck tonight. But we've also spoken with Alex Neville and Ryan Falconbridge and Bradley Gravitt from the Mini Challenge. We spoke with Bradley Gravitt's father, Rob, 1990 BTCC champion. We've also spoken with Matt Neal, Steve Soper, John Cleland, Michael Crease, who's doing very well, and he's made his way onto the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup. We've spoken to Tom Coronel, Jade Edwards, Ollie Jackson, Brad Philpott, Chris Smiley, Rick Parfitt, Jake Hill, Dick Bennett, the legend who has launched Ayrton Senna's career, Mecca Hackinen's career, and others. And we've spoken with Louise Goodman on the media side. So if any of those sound good, go and check them out on our page. But we've mentioned a whole lot of British touring car drivers, world touring car driver as well, which leads us nicely on to our guest tonight. Absolute legend of touring cars. He's been described as the Michael Schumacher of touring cars, which I don't think is too far off the mark. And I can see him, he's smiling at me. So we're going to bring him in. This is going to be brilliant. BTCC, World Touring Car and other series legend, Mr. Andy Priaulx.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Andy, how you doing? You all right?
Fantastic. Yeah, all really good. Good to see you guys.
No, super. Yes, very good to see you. You look very well, which is excellent. And thank you very much for sparing the time this evening to join us. We've got more people tuning in, which is great. So yeah, thank you so much. Firstly, how's it all been?
I've got you on one screen, and I've got the Indy 500 qualifying just to my right over here. So, watching an old teammate of mine just about to qualify, Tony Kanaan. So, but no, it's really great to speak to you guys, and thanks for the invitation. It's it would have been a fairly boring Sunday night otherwise. So here we go.
Well, we've provided something different. I hope we don't distract you from the Indy 500 qualifying. I must admit, I wish I'd had a TV just up here, and I haven't. So, if you can keep us posted, that'd be great.
It's really interesting at the moment. Just seeing Will Power just scrape into the top 30. He was fighting for that sort of last row. I mean, Will Power's just, I mean, I think his average qualifying position in IndyCar is P5. So, but unfortunately, both Penske cars were really struggling. But anyway, to see him scrape in was good. And now we're looking at the final qualifying to set the grid for the top 9 cars. And the provisional poll is Scott Dixon. So, looking good.
It's all very exciting. I should say well done to Beth Peretta and her team to get Simona de Silvestro on the grid. Excellent. Really pleased she got in. It's
really impressive actually. She's really put together a fantastic team there, and obviously with the help of Penske, well, working together, but an all-female team pretty much. And yeah, I mean that's a tough race to qualify for. I mean Alonso didn't make it last year, so
No,
that just goes to show the level that those girls have come in at, which is fantastic.
yeah, yeah, very impressive. Very good to see. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But firstly,
Absolutely.
obviously, it's been a very difficult year and a bit for everyone. How's it been, for you and for your lad Seb? Obviously, he's not been able to get as much racing in. How's it all been? Obviously, it's been very difficult for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's for Sebi it's been good because he's raced like all of last year in the US, and this year obviously he's racing in the Porsche Career Cup Championship, which he's already won a race. He's leading the championship, so he's having a good run. For me personally, I was just on the back of, well, just about to sign actually to commit to a longer term touring car career with World Touring Car. With COVID, with my family, and with my son Seb racing out in America, and also the commitments I had with Multimatic to do that, take my role there within Multimatic as a development driver and everything else. I just had to let one thing go. So it was sad to let the racing go, but I've had a long career, so I'm not necessarily too, in a lot of ways I miss it, but at the same time it was quite a relief just to, after 20 years of being a manufacturer driver, it's sometimes nice to just focus on the other important things in life, which was family and Seb and getting his career going. So yeah, I'm really happy though. I mean, the last year has been busy. We've been in America, I've been busy with Multimatic. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good, but difficult times for everybody. And I think if you can get through this period in motor racing, you can probably make it through any period in motor racing, because it's been hit hard. All sport has been hit pretty hard by COVID. So, and I think it's one of the first things to be knocked off the budget, isn't it, when things get difficult, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that sort of goes for, that also goes for the companies and the businesses that provide the sponsorship. There's been a lot of drivers, very good drivers, that haven't been able to make the grid because, because uncertainty of business and, not wanting to put their hands in their pocket, which is another side of things. But it looks as though obviously here in the UK, the mainland, we're going to be getting back trackside very soon, which is excellent. I think it started this weekend at Brands Hatch with the British GT, so looks as though we're coming through.
I was watched a bit of the British GT, and obviously quite keen on the Mustang there, the Ford Mustang, which is a Multimatic car run by Academy. And unfortunately, it was sad to see that Matt Cowley didn't get a chance to drive his stint today, but it's good to see that the racing's kicking off again. And obviously the first British touring car race at Thruxton was awesome to watch. I'm enjoying my racing, watching it from the couch. So but yeah, I'm still really passionate about it, and there's some really, really exciting racing ahead this year, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be welcome back, isn't it? It's going to be, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very happy to get back trackside. So,
absolutely,
me included.
Yeah, absolutely. Will you guys be able to attend now, or can you go to the races this year?
Yeah, I think we're aiming certainly on the BTCC side. We're aiming for Thruxton at the end of August. We're going to the closer at Brands Hatch and going up to Donington as well. So we're going to be at least at those three, hopefully some other ones. Fingers crossed we're going to be at the British Grand Prix as well.
Yeah.
Got two British Superbike rounds as well. So yeah, it looks like we're going to be back. And I will be at the Indy 500 next year. I was supposed to be going this week, or this week coming, but obviously for COVID reasons couldn't do it. But it is what it is. So yeah, hopefully
one race I haven't seen in reality. I've been to Indy. I've raced around the Indy, not on the oval, but on the infield. Yeah. But obviously drove for Chip Ganassi for a few years. So, and he always invited me along. So I'm still hoping that invitation is still there, and I'd love to see it. I mean, it's just a crazy race, and I was amazed at how narrow the track is coming out of turn 4 onto that start finish straight. Yeah. It's so narrow. I mean, they go 4-5 abreast at 235 mile an hour. These guys are heroes.
And it always gets things leveled at it, saying, "Oh, it's just going around in circles," which couldn't be further. I mean, okay, they are, but it's not that simple. It's unbelievable.
No, those
Absolutely
cars are on the
unbelievable.
edge. Oh, you could literally touch the tire on the inside of the corner, and that car would spin into the wall. So it's unfortunately with motor racing, it's sometimes people don't see it as a sport, but it is a sport. You've got to be physically, mentally at the top of your game. It's all about balance and coordination and commitment, and all the things that any good sports person requires. So very often you see, there's a lot of racing drivers, good racing drivers, who could have been pro at something else and chose motorsport. But they're all very, very good sportsmen. So I mean, Indy 500 takes so much courage, bravery, and absolute skill to understand the cars technically and drafting. And it's all new to me. But I did a few races this year for fun on the esports when we did the Legends racing with Mario Andretti actually, and Emerson Fittipaldi, and some amazing names like that. And we were training and practicing and testing on the simulator, around Indy. It's hard. Concentration was really high, 5 abreast and working together, not touch each other, and it's really tough racing. So maximum respect for these guys here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just seeing one of the comments coming in saying, "Oh, have you got any funny tales from the paddock when you were with West Surrey Racing?" We are going to, if you want to throw any of those in, we are going to come to that when we get to that sort of point. So if you want to fling any in, please do.
Sure.
What we like to do, I mean, obviously we'd like to, have a run through your career and stuff, which we're going to have to do. It's all fairly laid back and it's not too snooty, which is good.
Awesome.
What we'd like to do, though, if we can we just start right back at the start? Because obviously you were, born in Guernsey. If could you correct me if I'm wrong? I thought that was the case. And what was it that first switched you onto motorsport? Because Guernsey doesn't, Guernsey and the Channel Islands, it doesn't necessarily strike you as a hotbed of motorsport.
No, I mean, my father and my grandfather both raced. My grandfather started racing on the sand here in Guernsey just after the Second World War. He actually built his own car himself, literally beat all the panels together and did it himself. He was a great mechanic. And that was sort of in the mid to late 40s and 50s. And my raced hill climbing in Guernsey, powerboat racing. So I'm actually the 3rd generation. My son Seb's the 4th generation racer. But there's a lot of motorsport in Guernsey. We've got sand racing, you've got motocross, you've got a kart track here around the outside of a football pitch. We've got hill climbing, sprinting. So there's a lot of racing nuts here in Guernsey. Making the step from Guernsey to racing, in the UK and internationally was not easy because there's a big stretch of water between us and it was very expensive. But I mean, we managed to do it. Obviously, I sort of started off on a sort of club grassroots level, really, with hill climbing. I did karting, I did motocross, I did anything with an engine. I wanted to drive it, basically, and still like that now. And but I went into hill climbing, and my father was, quite keen, so we started prepared together. I did all the mechanical setup with my dad on the car, and we actually went to a really good level in hill climbing, and obviously won the British Hill Climb Championship in 1995. I was only 20 years old, but that was driving a 4-litre DFL Formula One engine Pilbeam, which was crazy. A mad bit of kit. I mean, obviously, these hill climbs are pretty high risk, especially in a car like that. So it was really good discipline, actually, because it teaches you to drive on instinct and with cold tires, which always helped me. It really helped me in the Race of Champions, when I obviously had some really good races in the Race of Champions and won it a few times. And it was really, I think, my feel for the car that I got, the instinct that I got from hill climbing, where I could just be quick straight away from, out of the box. And I think that's something that I practiced and was really, really in my makeup when I was, before I started racing. Really, I was always able to just have a good feel for a car straight away. And hill climbing taught me that, so it was a good discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those it's one of the disciplines that sort of sneaks under the radar, isn't it? Because obviously, everyone, people like things that go on a track and go round and do laps and
Yeah.
overtaking and stuff. But from a driving point of view, as you say, and you know better than I will, it's like keeps you on your toes right from the off, doesn't it? And it's a great way to cut your teeth, isn't it?
It's a very, for a circuit race, it was a very unconventional route. But actually, Nicky Lauda was a hill climber. Sterling Moss started hill climbing. Murray Walker, his first ever commentary was at Shelsley Walsh in the 50s or whenever it was. So a lot of drivers used to race hill climbs and do Formula One Grand Prix as well. So, but obviously it's a very unconventional route, but it's a nice grassroots, really nice scene actually, and some great circuits or great hills in the UK. We've got Gurston Down, which is south of England. We've got Shelsley Walsh, one of my favourites. Prescott, Doon up in Scotland, which is a really tough circuit. There's a lot of and we've got two great hills here. One in Jersey called Bully Bay, which is on the street, and same in Val d'Orthez here in Guernsey. It was great because we were able to enjoy the racing, but not have too much pressure. And obviously with circuit racing, there's lots of, at a certain point, you're either going to do it for fun or you're going to make a career of it. And, I was very fortunate that I had a good, very successful early part of my career, and I had some momentum behind me, but it was a lot of pressure to go from just a hill climber, grassroots racer to a professional paid racing driver. So it took some time, but it was nice to have that upbringing and that enjoyment, because I still like getting my hands dirty now, working on cars a little bit, and it helped me a lot when it came to setting up a car, because I really understood, the mechanical side of the car and the diff and the gearbox and the suspension. I was able to sort of almost do it myself, so that always helped me with setup as well, which I felt was a real benefit in my career.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's it's always good to know why a car goes well, not just because it goes well.
Yeah, especially in the long distance races where you need to understand, the weaknesses of the car, and you need to be able to, help the setup for the long distance races with your engineer and understand where the car's going to be weak or where it's strong, or in the development, part of the development of the car as well. When you're, for Ford and for Chip Ganassi, we developed that car and it won, its very first Le Mans, and we were all part of that. And that was really, we had some really good drivers at a high level with a lot of good feedback, and that really made the difference to that program. So, of course, you need the equipment and you need the car, and the Ford GT was an amazing kit. But also making the right choices on aero and suspension in testing were all really important.
Yeah, all the bits that people don't think about, from the outside looking in.
Absolutely.
Just before we make the jump into the track racing and everything, I've got a note here that you mentioned it before. You did your dad and you did a bit of powerboat racing. Now, for someone who lives in Berkshire, there's not a lot of water around the edge of Berkshire. There's a few lakes, but I've always thought that just looks a bit mad. Was it really good fun doing that?
It was. I mean, in Guernsey, you're surrounded by the sea. So my father used to race powerboats, and we had like a ski boat. So of course, we were playing on the ski boat and trimming it out to go faster and faster all the time. And there's some local races, and we just entered them for fun, which was great. What I liked about my upbringing was, though, a lot of kids now are under so much pressure. They're racing every weekend for 40 weekends a year. They're on the simulator, they're training, you have that approach. But, I was very fortunate. I just really enjoyed my upbringing, and I enjoyed all the racing that I did. And yeah, I did win races, and I won at motocross, and I won at karting, and one in hill climbing. But also there were weekends where I didn't win, but I don't remember ever feeling bad about it,
Right.
Whereas when you become a professional driver, when you don't win, you feel like your career's about to end. So most of the time you feel like you're about to end. So, it's quite a different, So I always had to sort of remind myself, this is my passion and I love this.
Yeah.
And actually, since I wouldn't say I've retired, because I'm still working in motor racing and still developing cars, and I could still race some races. I've still got a race contract. So, but I do really enjoy my racing still, even though I'm not actively sat in the car. I'm watching Thruxton, I'm watching Indy 500, and I really enjoy it. So it's nice to be able to look at it from the outside a little bit as well.
Yeah, and just and as you say, just remember why you got into it in the first place is because you enjoy doing it, isn't it? That's the main thing.
You have to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, definitely, because you can't win every time. Yeah, we know that. I saw an interview with the golfer Justin Rose, and he said, "Look, I'm a golfer and I love doing it, and I need to remind myself that you're going to lose way, way, way more times than you're going to win." So,
Totally. Yeah, you are. That is so true.
Yeah, get into it because you love it and stay in it for the same reason.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have a strong mind in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back, I mean, you mentioned about the you won the hill climb championship in '95. 1996, you moved into Formula Renault. How did that come about? Was it a case of seeking sponsorship, or did you meet the right person, or did someone say, "Well, have him"?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was quite unusual, because I obviously won the British Hill Climb Championship in 1990, and at that time I think Jackie Stewart came to one of my hill climbs to watch me, because I actually won every single race that year.
Right.
Got 100 points maximum score, and started getting a lot of attention from race teams and things as well. And obviously, I, you know, I was coming from a Formula One engine, high downforce car, and I really should have just gone into Formula Ford and done a year or two of Formula Ford, because the technique was so different in hill climbing to
Right.
circuit racing. But I managed to get a bit of sponsorship behind me, and obviously I went to the Winfield Racing School, and it's a very famous school because a lot of top drivers went through there, like Olivier Panis and Damon Hill. They all got their scholarships through that and got sponsored. And the guy that runs the Winfield Race School is a guy called Mike Knight, and he was a Jersey guy. And I went to the school, and he liked what he saw. He thought that I had a good level of ability. So he introduced me to a guy called Tico Martini, who was building Formula Renault chassis at the time. And if you look at Tico Martini, he's a really famous guy. I mean, he's made some unbelievable cars. A real clever constructor, racing engineer. And between him and Mike Knight, they funded part of my Formula Renault season. So that's why I went to Formula Renault. But it wasn't easy. I started at the back, and as I say, I just turned up at Thruxton with pretty much no testing, and the level was high. So I had my arse slapped a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I knuckled down, and towards the end of the season, I started getting the odd podium here and there, and the following year I went into Formula 3, and it was all happening a bit quick for my experience level. So then I stopped, I reset. I didn't have a lot of money. We were always running out of money, and I was just instructing and stuff. And I managed to raise a little bit of sponsorship at the end of the year, and I did a Renault Spider race, and finished on the podium. And I've managed to generate a little bit more money off the back of that, and some good results. And the following year I had my sort of first full season of sponsorship, and that was the 1999 season when I won every single race in the Spider Championship. So
I've just got the was it 13? Was it 13 races, 13 wins, and 11 fastest laps? I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not a bad year.
I know. I mean, I was the only guy in it, but nobody needs to know that. And, but no, I mean, it was really good actually, and it got me a lot of attention. And obviously, I had off the back of that a chance to test in Formula 3 with Renault, and I drove the Williams touring car as well. And I mean, I had a really good test with Renault in Formula 3, and I turned that into a full factory Formula 3 drive the following year when Jensen he went on to Williams in Formula 1, and I replaced Jensen. So, I think without that Renault Spider season, I'd have had a completely different career path,
right,
for sure. So it was really important. And yeah, I mean, it was something that I think, at the end of the day, this game is not only just about results, but also about visibility and profile. And it really, people looked up, like, wow, he won every single race. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And then obviously I earned myself a scholarship drive in Formula 3, which again was, at that time I was 26 years old. So that was a little bit unconventional. People thought I was never going to do anything in Formula 3. I was too old and too fat. I remember one guy told me I was too fat. And, yeah, I mean, anyway, I ended up podium straight away, and beat my experienced team, who was the guy that took, quite a big fight to Jensen the year before. So yeah, and then I had a couple of years of Formula 3, won some races.
Yeah.
And went to Macau and Korea, put it on pole. And yeah, I think when you do well in Formula 3, especially at that level, when I was doing Formula 3, it was like, that was it. There was no other formula. Like now you got GP3, F3 now, but it was GP3, GP2, all sorts of different formulas.
So many other avenues now, isn't there?
Yeah, there was. It's getting better again, but at one point there was so many different formulas. But then, the final year of Formula 3 that I did, there was me, Anthony Davison, Takuma Sato, Lotterer, Courtney, myself. We all went on to paid professional drives.
Yeah, and obviously, you mentioned Takuma Sato. He's the defending Indy 500 champion. He's done it twice, so he did all right
twice. Ant went into Formula 1 as well.
Yeah, he was in. He was in.
Yeah, and then Lotterer ended up going. Courtney was in Jaguar, but we all went into a professional paid. I went into Honda in touring car, and we all went into a professional drive. And I think that's when, if you were winning in Formula 3 in those days, and you were a top Formula 3 driver, I never use the word guaranteed, but you were pretty certain to get a good, high level drive in something, especially if you go to Macau and Korea and you do well. And I was fighting for wins in both. So yeah, I enjoyed that, because there was a lot of people that were always knocking me back, too old, coming through hill climbing, didn't spend millions in karting. I really came on a very unconventional route, but made it stick. That was nice.
Yeah, it just shows there's plenty of different routes into things. Just want to go back to the Spider. I've just seen someone who you may not remember comment from like Simon Hill. His son Jake is currently top of the shop in the British Touring Car Championship, and he said when you got your 11 fastest laps, he's just pitched in. He said that he got one of the other ones.
Yeah, I'll never forgive him for that. He's such a numpty. He really is. He's a great guy. Love Simon. We've had some great races together over the years. We've crashed into each other plenty of times, and Simon was a real good driver, a real hustler. He worked really hard, and he raised his own money like me. So we had a lot in common. We weren't gifted, anything. So we worked really hard, and I can see Jake's got that same approach. He's driving really well, and he's a good kid. And he's definitely going to have a big career. He's already proving that now. So, Simon, we've had a lot of fun over the years. So say hi from me. He's probably watching. He may not be, but we go back a long way.
Yeah, I just want to say about Jake. We actually had a chat with him about 2.5 weeks ago. He came on and had a chat before Thruxton. And as you say, really, really good guy, and really good attitude. Simon has just said about you. He said that you're the best driver that he ever had the pleasure to race against, the hardest worker and most professional, and now a top racing dad. I know how tough that is, but rewarding. So he speaks very highly of you.
He's lovely, and all my hair stood up. So tell him he's done a great job. And thanks very much, mate. And we must see each other soon, because we've all spent far too much time apart from each other the last few years. So
Definitely.
I'm not allowed to be at Seb's races anymore now, so I'm a hockey dad. So I'll go to someone else's races and watch those.
Yeah, fair enough. Nice one. He's just said hello, bud, so he is watching.
Oh, good lad.
Yeah, good man. Cheers for tuning in, Simon. We'll catch up soon. You said about the F3. This was obviously when it was, it was like the route into like the upper echelons of motorsport, should we say? Obviously, we spoke to Dick Bennett on here recently, and he was instrumental in that with West Surrey Racing, who you raced for a bit later on, which we'll come to that. And you had second in the Korea Super Prix and other bits and pieces. And then you came at that point. Were you thinking down the single seater route, or did you think, could I go into the following years? You mentioned you went into the British touring cars.
Yeah, I think at that point,
just one round. But what was your thought? Was it single seaters or tin tops or whatever came along?
yeah, I mean, I wanted to aim for Formula One because if you aim high, if you don't quite make it, you end up with something still quite good. So I really wanted to go through Formula 3 because Formula 3 for me was like the upper six of motor racing. And I did feel like I really needed that education to become a professional driver and be respected. Like at one point in Super Touring, you looked at all of the guys that were in Super Touring and they were all top single seater drivers, Calvin Burt and Ricard Rydell and, real, real quality world class drivers. Who you could have put them in anything and they would have won races and did win races. So I wanted that sort of, I don't know, I because I didn't have the ability to find such huge sums of money. I really had to be in a situation where I was getting paid. And at that point, I was 27, 28. I still had not really earned any money, just the odd day of instructing just to scrape the barrel. I got offered a. Phil Bennett hates me for this, but he still can't look at me he still can't look at me. We were teammates as well, and we were good mates, but he screwed up and obviously got a race ban. And
he had a few incidents. Was it Croft, wasn't it? He had a few incidents in one weekend.
Yeah, got a race ban. So poor guy, and he'd struggled until that point. But Phil was a really quick, very natural driver, but like me, he didn't have years and years of karting to his name, and he started later than me. So, but anyway, Derek picked up the phone, and I remember I was actually at Knock Hill, and I was actually on pole in F3, but I was really, Joe and I were struggling. We were in a caravan pretty much. We had no money. We scraped all the money together we could to do Formula 3 with all the sponsors, and we had little Seb, my little lad. He was only a few months old, and so Derek phoned me and said, "Would you fill in for Phil Bennett?" And I'm like, "Mate, I'd love to. When is it?" And he's like, "Next week." And I just went straight from Knock Hill to Pembrey because we were testing in F3, and I drove from there straight to Alton Park. And I sat in the car and it just clicked, and I put it on pole for both races.
Yeah.
And then after that race weekend, they offered me a contract, and but then Honda also offered me a contract as well. And I'll be totally honest, from the sporting perspective, I should have taken the 888 deal, but Honda was another 15 grand more. Not 50, but 15. And that 15. Time, I don't no money. I was like, struggling. So I took the Honda drive because it was a multi-year deal. And to be honest, a little bit of extra money. And it was a good move because I developed the car, I learned about front wheel drive. I didn't have like a teammate like Ivan who would have been totally domineering. I was able to really bring the team around me, and I was able to win some races at the end, and that was great. And then I got invited to 8 supercars and did well down there, and then got the phone call from BMW to say, "Look, we're running a touring car program in European touring car. You're on our shortlist? Would you consider?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come and see you when I got back," and landed and went and signed the contract with BMW.
I'm guessing that didn't take much considering. Or was it kind of one of those, oh, wow?
I will have to be honest.
It's a huge brand.
I was on the contract with Honda.
Yeah.
But Honda phoned me at the end of the year and said, "AP, you know, not looking good for next year. The manufacturer's pulling the plug, and you know, you're on a paid drive, and you know, I might not be able to pay you. And you know, I was like, oh God, you know, I went off to V8s, drove at Bathurst, and I was thinking about how I could bring something together. And then the phone call came, and they sent me a fax. I agreed the deal and flew back and signed it. So the timing was perfect. And I've never looked back since then. I mean, that first year in touring car and European, I won 3 races, nearly won the championship. And then the next 4 years, I won everything, the European, the world, the whole lot. So it was the, you know, career defining moment. Yeah.
I mean, just looking back, I mean, you sort of touched on it there. I mean, in terms of things starting to take an upturn, was it that performance in the BTCC on that one weekend? You took pole, and then obviously caught the eye of Honda. Did that feel like, you know, looking back, did that feel that was like the turning point where things started to start going in your favor?
I would say, you know, I always probably, you know, and I've told him this to his face many times, Derek Warwick, you know, he was the guy that gave me my break. You know, love the guy. And he's a Jerseyman, and you know, I'm from Guernsey, but he gave me my one-off chance. That double pole sealed it. And then, you know, obviously the Honda thing was a great education. And I obviously put myself and my name near the top on a regular basis, which caught the eye of BMW. So I think, you know, when I look back at my career, you know, you can say there's a handful of moments that are career defining. If they hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be here now, you know, wouldn't have had the career that I've had. So that was the Renault drive in Formula 3, the Spiders winning all those races, you know, yes, the Alton Park moment. And then I've had a couple of career defining moments at BMW where, you know, things happened, and it just went my way, you know, but I had many years where it didn't go my way. So you've got to take those moments and take them full on, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to comment from Chris Taylor. I think this is reference back to that first BTCC thing, and he said, "Don't forget the little issue in quali." Trying to think what that one was. Don't forget the quali little issue. I'm just seeing. I can't remember that myself, Chris. Can
What,
you put
in the touring car?
Yeah, I think so.
In the Vauxhall.
Yeah,
oh,
I think so.
It was free practice when I stuck it in the wall, maybe.
Yeah, that might be it. I think he's been very mean. Coming.
Has he been nasty?
I don't know. We're just going to see. We're going to see if he. Chris, put another comment in, please. Explain.
No, I mean, I know that I had an FP1, a puncture going into Druids, which was my fault because I ran a bit too much exit curb, out of Knickerbocker, and stuffed the car in the tyre wall. And I can remember looking at Derek going, "Oh my God, you know, what have I done here?" But stuck it on pole for both races. Fired Ivan off, which was nice as well in the race. He tried to come around the outside of me, and of course it was all my fault. You know, I just needed to be. Oh, Dixie's on pole, by the way. Scott Dixon's on pole.
Scott Dixon, there you go. Breaking news, world exclusive. Scott Dixon.
Dixie's on pole. That's amazing. I love that guy. That guy is one of the best drivers in the world. I tell you, he is the real deal.
And he doesn't get the credit, does he? Even in, you know, his homeland, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. It's like him and Will Power.
I can't understand that.
It's like him and Will Power. They don't get the credit they deserve. Unbelievable.
I don't know why that is. Well, I know why, because they haven't been in Formula One. But if they were in Formula One, they would be absolutely top of the front of the grid. I mean, Scott Dixon for me is one of the best drivers in the world, and Will Power too.
Agreed.
Very, very, very. Yeah, that's amazing. They'd see him on pole. That is awesome.
That's good. Yeah. I'm happy with that. We like him. Yeah, he's
he's a good lad. He's a tough guy. You know, never complains. I mean, we were teammates together at Le Mans, and that was the year he flipped the car in Indy. He broke his foot. Didn't tell anyone. He drove the whole of Le Mans with a broken foot, braking with his other foot, and he was still on the pace. I tell you, the guy's impressive.
That takes some doing. No, excellent. Oh, good. Really pleased to hear that, because absolutely. You know, he's an excellent peddler.
He's a hero. He's a hero. Yeah, he is.
Just switching back, I mean, you mentioned you went down to Bathurst. You raced it a few times now. And as I said, we spoke to like John Cleland, Steve Soper, and Matt Neal and Rob Gravitt, and they've all said about Bathurst. They just said it's absolutely bonkers. They said it's an incredible track. The fans are amazing if they're on your side, and if they're not, they don't like you. How did you find it around Bathurst? Was it because I mean we've 4 or 5 drivers have said it's absolutely fantastic around there.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I loved the V8s. Really enjoyed it. I did quite a lot of it over the years. In fact, I did one year when Johnny Clennon was there. Must have been one of his last drives, and he drove bloody well. Yeah, I mean, I love Bathurst. It's special track. Special. I really, one of the things that I do pinch myself for is that I should have gone down there full time. Roland Dane offered me the drive there that Jamie Whincup ended up taking. But at that moment, I was signing to do 5 years of DTM with BMW, so it was a difficult choice. But
yeah, oh, that's not a decision you want to make.
that's a hard one, But you know, always loved it. The cars suited me, the big fast cars, and I was brought up with overpowered, undertired cars, so it was a perfect scenario for me. And I always had a good pace down there.
Yeah.
And but I mean, Bathurst is it's an amazing. I loved the Surface Paradise as well. I mean, I finished on the podium there with Lowndes, Craig Lowndes. Me and him were P2. Unfortunately, we just got pipped by Bourdais and Jamie Whincup. But fantastic racing. Long distance touring car racing, V8s, lots of noise, lots of power. You know, doesn't get better than that, does it?
Yeah, that does sound good. I think I've said in a few of these, I've got three non-European motorsport bucket list items. One's the Indy 500, which I should be doing next week.
Got to do it.
Daytona 500 and the Bathurst. They're the 3 that I want to go to. And every time I speak to anyone who's driven it, it just makes me want to go even more to Bathurst. It just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, you'd love it. You got to go to the Conrod Straight and listen to that V8 on full song. You know, I mean, that's why I went racing. I didn't go racing to listen to sewing machines go around. I went racing to big V8s with beautiful sound. You know, stunning racing.
Yeah. Things that make your teeth rattle, makes you,
Yeah, and also, I mean, I must say, looking at the British touring car, they really have got it sorted. Alan Gow's done a great job. I mean, watching Thruxton last weekend, it's just proper racing. It's really hard, good racing, good high level. Really nice to watch, and that's what racing's all about. Nobody wants to listen to how someone conserved a little bit of energy here, and the data guy did really well with the 0 and 1s on the computer program to add a bit of longevity to the throttle map or whatever. What you want is to be able to go out the pits and it goes down to the fastest guy, the guy that can stick it on the line in a changeable condition. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got to be super clever to do well in Formula E. Those drivers now that are racing in Formula E, they're really clever guys. Da Costa and Sammy Bird and these guys, I mean, they really have mastered it, and it is a hard formula. But for me, it's just a different style of racing. I'm more old school. And I know it's probably not going to go down well saying this, but, I just like the whole fact of, being on the limit, full song all of the time.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to struggle with the whole electric thing longer term for sure.
Yeah, sure. I must admit, I must agree. I mean, we're not that different in age, and I'm the same. I got into it for the noise and the smell and the fastness as well. Indy 500, it's just fast. For the want of a better phrase, it's fast, nuts out, and off you go. It's
It is. That's what I love about racing in the US. I spent years racing out there. Since 2009, 2008, and I just loved it. And look at this Indy 500. Those cars sound stunning. The NASCARs sound brilliant.
They're the best.
They just sound fantastic. That's why I think there's going to be a big boom in historic racing going forward, because people are going to want to get their little bit of Castrol R and their little bit of petrol in the veins. That's what they love. So
have a little throwback.
hopefully that'll be a good boom for historic touring car racing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. You just quickly, you touched upon being offered the drive down in Australia, and you were doing the DTM deal and everything. It just takes me back to a comment I saw quite early on. James Hammett, he said, "What's your biggest career regret / missed opportunity?" Did that feel like a missed opportunity looking back, or were you glad what you did? Or
Yeah, no, I didn't enjoy DTM at all.
right, yeah,
I think Alan McNeish said to me, Andy, you won't look back at that when you walk away. You will never look back. Not from DTM. It's such a hard formula. To be honest, it would be nice now doing DTM because it's a GT car.
yeah,
But when I was doing DTM, I mean, such a political formula, and I was already 38 years old when I joined. So I think you should be, joining at 21, 22. And
right,
at some point over the next 10 years, you might win, like guys like Gary Paffett and Jamie Green. I mean,
yeah,
those guys were years and years in DTM, and again, another really, for me, a very, I wouldn't say underestimated, but a driver like Scott Dixon, who isn't very well known, is a guy like Jamie Green and Gary. But, Jamie's phenomenal driver.
yeah,
I mean, he's the guy that beat Lewis Hamilton in the same team in Formula Renault. So,
exactly. Yeah.
these
He's
guys,
quite
you
good.
don't hear from them, but yeah, phenomenal driver, Jamie and Gary, both
Yeah,
really world-class drivers. So, but I did struggle with DTM. I didn't like the way that the car felt. I was more of a mechanical feeling sort of driver, and a DTM is like real high aero, pinned on the nose, and there's a strange blend of high downforce into very low mechanical grip, and it was a strange transition for me.
right,
I was the best BMW in the first race in Hockenheim, but then that wasn't in the script, and you could see it. They were like, and you just get the feeling, with DTM that a lot of it, as everyone knows, is you've got to be the guy who's been quickest in testing, and you've got to do well in the first two races. If you do well
yeah,
in the first two races, then everyone drives for you from that point on. And I didn't have a great second race, and that was it. I
yeah,
just ended up driving, but it's a high level. It really improved me as a driver because it helped me mentally to be even stronger. And I had
yeah,
some of my best years post DTM. I went into America in 15 and had a really good season with Rahal, and then joined Ford and had 4 fantastic years in WEC where, I won races and yeah, felt really, really strong. So it was a good career moment. Hard, but made me a better driver, definitely.
yeah. You good. And just touching on it, obviously they've had a bit of difficulties in DTM recently, haven't they? Gerhard Berger's been trying to sort of salvage it because the team was dropping out because of the finances. But yeah, let's hope it can get back to where it was because, as you say, it was 2 or 3 years ago. It was fantastic. We went to Brands Hatch and saw it. It was fantastic.
It's
And the
brilliant.
noise
It was
was
such a high
best.
level.
Yeah. And just
Yeah,
the racket as they shot up towards Druid. Ooh.
yeah. No, it's proper cars. I mean, they're like formula cars, really. High downforce. And the year that I did it, the 3 years that I did it, it was really, really tough competition. And yeah, I mean, at the end, my final race, I stuck it on the front row, and I wasn't slow, but sometimes I was 14th, and I'm really suicidal, and I have David Coulthard to my left, and I was 2/10 off pole, and
Wow.
you're 14th on the grid, and that's DTM. So
It's a blink of an eye, isn't it?
it's a tough formula, and if you
Yeah.
got the wrong splitter on the car or the wrong aero or not the best team order, then you're screwed, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it.
No, absolutely. No, hopefully all will be well over there. Just seen someone, Bobby Hooker. He's obviously met you, and he said, "Oh, it was cool to meet you at the DTM at Brands Hatch." So he's obviously got a good memory of meeting you, which is
Thanks,
good.
dude. Nice to meet you
Yeah,
too. I think
nice.
I qualified 9th or 7th, something around there.
Yeah.
Anyway, 92 laps. I remember that.
Wow. That'll do it. That's
92 lap
good.
race.
Yeah. Obviously, just want to take it sort of back. This is something I've actually wanted to talk to you about for a while. I put a few posts up about it during the week. 2004, the European Touring Car Championship with the BMW team. I can remember watching this. This was the first time I saw some real safe some real sort of extended coverage of the European touring cars, because it hadn't been around, on TV for that long. And I remember watching that race in Dubai, the season closer. And it was like Team BMW GB v Team BMW Germany, kind of, wasn't it? It was like, and I just remember in that final race, you were starting 7th. You got a hell of a launch up to 3rd. Then there was a huge shunt behind you. You had to go and do it all again, and you did. And obviously, going into the weekend, you were behind. Was it Dirk Muller, wasn't it? And he I think he finished down towards the back. I think he'd retired, but was classified 17th or something. And you had a shot at the title. What was it like with those 2 starts that you had to do and carving up to the front?
Yeah.
And it must have been a hell of a day. It was, yeah. Was it nerve-wracking as well, knowing there was a title?
Definitely. I mean, that year I won more races than him, but I had some DNFs or something. So, and I was, to be honest, I was really peed off because there was a BMW test the week before in Dubai, and I was the only one not to get invited there. So you can imagine I'm fighting for the championship. It's a week before, and I found out that Dirk and Jorg had been testing all before the race. Wow. So I was fired up when I got there. I always said that I drove for BMW against BMW, because as much as they were the amazing employer, I mean, they never, they're a very honest company to deal with. They put a roof over my head, but they were hard work as well, and it was racing against Schnitzer was one of the hardest things because they were a phenomenal team. It wasn't in the script for small team, 1-car team like RBM and Andy Priaulx, a guy from England, to win the championship. But yeah, I qualified on pole for both races, which was nice, and having never seen the track. Wow. And of course, in race 2, I was starting on the reverse grid, so I was fired back to 8th.
Yeah.
And there was a red flag, but I was really prepared mentally. I was training in a sauna. I was doing a lot of meditation, a lot of mind work. So I was able to just, deal with it. And I think that's what championship. Well, we scored equal points, me and Dirk, 111.
Yes.
But I won 5 races and he won 4.
Yeah.
So that's what won it. So it was nice.
Because you were something like 12 points behind or something, or more maybe, going into the last round, and you closed that gap. And I think they said if you had won the race, he had to finish 2nd or 3rd. I can't remember what it was. But you were obviously running in 2nd. I forget, was it who was out in front? Was it, I can't remember who it was.
Or someone. I think Gabrielli.
I think it was Tarquini, wasn't it? And Farfus was behind. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, did you know that your 2nd place? Obviously, I think from watching it, you weren't making any inroads. He was off and away and over the horizon type thing.
Yeah, they disappeared into the distance. Yeah.
Were you aware of what was going on behind you? Did you have it in the ear, or were you just focused on what you were doing?
I just remember that my team boss was telling me where Dirk was during the race, and I had Tomo all over me, Jimmy.
Yeah, James Thompson. Yeah,
he was an absolute gent. I had to defend like a lion to keep him behind me, but he was brilliant to me. He pushed me hard, but he wasn't stupid. And kept him behind me. And the funny thing was, it was so hot that there were drivers going on the drip, pulling in, falling out the car. They were dropping out like flies. So I was like, oh my God. I know that about 2 guys behind me, had to pit or something. They just weren't well. You know what I mean? It was 48 degrees or something. But thank God we managed to keep it together. And I think Dirk finished 5th or something. So he won the championship, and it was all good. So that was pretty career defining, I must say.
Yeah. That must have
1-year deal turned into a multi-year deal after that. So those moments are really important. Really important. Yeah.
And obviously that was the first well, I suppose I say the only one because it was rebranded, wasn't it? It was rebranded to
Yeah.
World Touring Cars. And just moving on quickly, because you had quite a good few years afterwards, it went okay. I've just looked at some of the names. I was doing a bit of research. And I looked at some of the names that were on the grid. There was like Alex Zanardi, Jorgen Dirkmuller, Gabriele Tarquini, James Thompson, Fabrizio Giovanardi, Augusto Farfus, Ricard Rydell, Georgie Genet, Jason Plato, Rob Huff, Nicola Larini, Alan Menu, and Tom Coronel. I mean, that's a ridiculous lineup. I mean, that is some amazing names.
Yeah.
Did you go into that?
Really cool.
Obviously, you were champion that year. Did you go into that season thinking, I can have these guys?
No, you never do. You never do.
No.
No, I mean, I think, you know, at that time it was lovely because I was driving with a lot of my heroes, you know, so it was very respectful of them. And they couldn't even pronounce my name in the first year, but they soon began to know who I was after a while. I mean, you know, obviously, I think for me, it was quite, you know, I don't see this a lot with a lot of young drivers, but I did have role models in my early days who I'd look up to, people that I were like, you know, I'd love to be like him. You know, Anthony Reid was a top driver, used to follow him. David Leslie, you know, I used to be so respectful of these guys, you know, and wanted to be at that level. And obviously, Ricard Rydell, Alan Menu, Tarquini, all these guys, you know, I mean, they were heroes of mine. So,
Yeah,
you know, it was a great honor to drive with them. Of course, I was racing against them, and you know, on race day, it was it was a different game. You know, they were not. You know, you had to fight for your own career. I mean, as much as you think those guys are heroes, you know, it's about keeping your job. So, and I was able to keep them at bay for 4 years, so that was great. And they were very respectful of me. And then, you know, then I went through a phase where everyone loved me because, you know, I was the up and coming guy. And then I went through the phase where everyone didn't like me because I was winning too much. And I've always said that when people don't like you, it's a good sign you're doing well. So, you know, I had to put up with a lot of politics for a while. Obviously, they didn't want me to win, you know, the 4th time. And I had to fight a lot of things. I mean, they even introduced a diesel turbo, sequential gearboxes, you name it, everything they threw at me. But yeah, you know, that's racing, isn't it? It's tough, and it's not always the sporting, but the technical as well that sometimes gets in the way. So, but you know, those years with BMW, I had 14 mega years. I was a factory driver for all of those years, and you know, won the Nürburgring, podium at Le Mans, led Le Mans, tested in Formula One, drove some of the biggest sport car races in the world, won Sebring. You know, won 60 races for BMW over the years. So, you know, there's it's been a good career with them.
It was pretty good, and obviously those, you know, those 4 years in the European and the World Touring Cars. I mean, you know, you can't do any better than that. That's absolutely top stuff. Excuse me. Mentioned about testing for Williams. Obviously, they were involved with BMW at the time. Very heavily. What was that like driving the F1 car? Was it everything that you had hoped it had been? When you got to do it.
Yeah, it was. You know, I never thought I'd ever get a chance to drive a Formula One car after you know, Formula 3 really. So, you know, Mario said, look, you know, stood up at the motorsport party and, you know, offered me the chance to test drive Formula One car. I'd probably asked him a few times whether I could drive it. And in fact, it was quite a nice moment because there's a certain gentleman who said to my wife a few years earlier that Andy will never sit in a Formula One car ever again. And my wife was like, yes, he will, joking. And he was there that night when it was announced that I was going to drive a Formula One car.
Wow.
So there was a nice little bit of money passed hands there. There's a bit of a bet between the two. But
lovely.
No, it was really great. It was great. I mean, obviously, I had a prize drive with Williams team in Valencia. Went through the motions. I trained like hell for the test. Ended up doing 72 laps.
Wow.
I got myself into the top 10, and that turned into a two-year test and development role with Williams.
Wow.
So they invited me back, and they paid me to do testing and development. And then when they switched to Cosworth, which was nothing to do in BMW, they also invited me to drive with them. So
lovely.
not only was there the BMW link, but they actually kept me on and sent me to do a lot of Cosworth work and various other stuff. So yeah, I did 2 or 3 years of on and off testing in Formula One, and you know, pretty amazing, really. Pretty amazing, yeah.
Yeah, those cars must be absolutely, because back in that time, those cars must have been absolutely fantastic to drive. Just
V10.
Yeah,
it was the V10. It was 1,000 horsepower or something crazy. You know, it was mega. Yeah,
that's
mega.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah, brilliant. Just going to have a quick look through that. Just going to go back to the touring car side. We obviously mentioned about Gabriele Tarquini, and he's still doing it, isn't he? He's still going, and he won the title. Was it 18, 19? He won and he's still there. He's doing it. He's with Hyundai now, and he's doing very well. I mean, he's obviously I first came across him in F1 when I was 8 or 9 years old, for Colonia or AGS or someone. And it always felt like he was always just in rubbish F1 cars. It was just really unfortunate for him. And he obviously went on to prove what a good driver he is and has done for the last 30 odd years, isn't he?
So he's amazing guy, and he's super clever. Really, really intelligent on setup. Just a real clever politician as well. Really good at keeping his drives and working with the teams. He's a strong character, a strong man, and I respect him a lot. Very clever guy. Not only on the track but off the track as well. He knows how to play it. So, I mean, look at him. He's 56, 57. He's still got a job. I'm about 20 years younger than him. I'm sat at home here watching Indy 500
and talking to people like me.
So yeah, he's done something right. It's all gone wrong. No, I mean, the one thing I admire about Gabriele is he's still got a strong desire. And I've always said, if you want to go racing in touring cars, you can race into your 50s if you want it.
Well, look at that.
You got
they're still going, aren't they?
The Plato's driving really well. Matt's unfortunately not driving this year. I mean, it's sad to see that. But Plato's driven really well in the last few races. So yeah, he's a hustler, and the old JP. He's a hustler.
He's made it all work for him, hasn't he? He's done well. Done very well. I just want to come to the Le Mans 24-hour and stateside just in a moment, but I've seen a comment here. Max Edmonds, which is quite a nice one. He says, "Hi Andy, my late father used to compete against you and your dad in the Pilbeam on the hills right at the start of your career, and he's followed your career ever since."
Oh wow,
so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I recognise the name actually.
Edmonds.
Very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, I did really enjoy my hill climb days and met some lovely people. And also a lot of them followed me through and used to come to a lot of my races actually. Chris Kramer, former British hill climb champion, and David Grace, and a lot of those guys. Tim Thompson was one of my biggest sponsors for a long time. He was Guyson International, and build up some lovely friends from the hill climb scene. So some really fun memories.
Yeah, it's nice that he's followed you. That Max has followed you all the way through as well. So yeah, lovely, nice community.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, lovely.
Cheers, Max.
Yeah, good stuff. Mentioned about going to Le Mans. Now I spoke on here with Steve Soper, who we all know has done lots of very, very good things in his career. He said that he hated Le Mans. He said he didn't feel like it was safe, in the dark with a busted windscreen wiper in the wet and braking distances and all that kind of stuff. He wasn't a fan of it at all. Obviously, you've had was it 5 or 6 runs at the Le Mans. How did you find it, and what were your thoughts? On that race?
I must admit,
so iconic, isn't it?
It's a tough track. Yeah. I must admit, I'd echo Steve's thoughts at first. I mean, it was mind-blowingly scary my first year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew to love it. I had a lot of good races there. It is a bit mad. Everything's wrong about it. You got massive VMAX, massive top speed, heavy braking, dark, multiple change in weather, and a huge amount of pressure in that race. You are driving at 11 tenths for the 24 hours now. There's nothing other than 100%. So none of this stroking at home, like that anymore. So it is a tough race. It's a tough race. I do agree with Steve. It is slightly dangerous. But these historic circuits, they got something. They just got something that pulls you back. And although it's not a very difficult track to learn, it's a very difficult track to be fast.
Right.
And you learn to be.
Oh, apologies, folks. We seem to have lost Andy. He's obviously got some bad weather out in the Channel Islands. Just going to wait for him to come back on. Keep the comments coming in. I've seen a few comments in here. John Kane and Thomas Parker. We are going to come to your questions shortly. We're going to come to the BTCC return shortly, and then we're going to have a quick chat about about Andy's time over in the States before we have a few little fun questions right at the end. But I'm just going to sit here and wait and vamp for everyone. Just so you know, we do have a lot of interviews coming up. We've got some IndyCar drivers, some current British touring car drivers, some past British touring car drivers. We've got a huge name in the world of motorsport coming up very shortly as well. So do stick with us, and I don't just mean tonight. So hopefully you can join us for all of those. Just keep an eye on the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter. The content's pretty much the same on all of them, but there's always more on Facebook and Instagram than on Twitter. So do come and give us a follow and keep an eye on what we're up to. I can't see Andy just yet. He's obviously had an issue with some kind of connection at his end. So I'm just going to sit here and chat and wait. But it's obviously been great hearing from Andy up to now. And hopefully we can hear a little bit more soon. We aren't going to be on for too much longer, but obviously great to hear from Andy. When we are done here, if you want to go onto our Facebook, facebook.com/The Hard Compound, Twitter @The Hard Compound, or YouTube, The Hard Compound, that's 3 words. You can have a look back through all the other interviews that we've done. I mentioned at the start. Just last week, we spoke to Danny Sullivan, double Indy 500 winner. We've had Mario Andretti and Larry Lyondike, Derek Warwick, Tom Coronel, Dick Bennett, John Cleland, Steve Soper, Rob and Bradley Gravitt have come on, Michael Crease, all these, some really top guys. And girls, we've had like Jade Edwards has come on, and as I mentioned, we spoke with Jake Hill, who's doing very, very well. So lots of good stuff, lots of good interviews to watch, but do bear with us for the time being. I am just clicking on the emails at the moment, see if Andy's had any issues with his side of things, but it could be the weather. It's not brilliant here. I can hear outside it's blowing a bit. So if you've got any questions, do put them in the comments, or if you want to have a chat, put those in the comments as well. We can have a quick chat and we'll see what happens when Andy comes back. So thank you everyone for tuning in already. Bobby Hooker, have you been to the caffeine machine yet? God, the bags under my eyes aren't that bad, are they? No, just got 2 kids, full-time job in the Hard Compound. It does eat into the sleep, but yeah, all good at this end. Thank you, Bobby. I am going to have a coffee when we're back. Mohammed Zafir, I'm fine, thank you, sir. Thank you for asking. I'm very well. I'm just keeping an eye on the screen, waiting for Andy to pop back up. But yeah, Bobby Hooker, you've also mentioned about going out to the States and racing with Chip Ganassi. We're going to come to that as well. John Kane, Thomas Parker, yeah, all of you guys. Yeah, loads of good questions coming in, which we are going to come to, hopefully, when Andy comes back. Obviously, he's in Guernsey, middle of the sea, in the Channel Islands, so the connection might not be the best out there. I do hope he's not sitting there talking to his own screen. Gary Jones, love these interviews. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Gary. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much for tuning in and for your support. Thomas Parker, great conversation with Andy. Yes, it was. Hopefully he'll be coming back soon to join us. once he's sorted his issues out at his end. I've just seen that I've got an email. Just bear with me. Oh, he's just said, thanks very much for inviting me on the show. I'm just going to reply to him and see if we can sort it out. Oh, no, he said the internet has gone down. Lovely to talk to you guys this evening. Thanks very much for having me on the show. I'm just gonna reply to him. Just bear with me while I write this. I do apologize. I've just asked if he wants to come back, then he can. But hopefully that isn't the end. Again, we do apologise. His internet's gone down. He has sent me an email, but I'm guessing that might have been from his phone. Oh no, yeah. So yeah, we'll see. The link is still open. The link is still open for Andy, and I've let him know. So hopefully he will return. But until then, if you want to pop something in the comments, we can have a chat about motorsport, touring cars, anything you like, really. I'm going to give it a few minutes until Andy comes back. Thomas Parker, technology, eh? Yes, agreed. Stephen Sherwood, have to do it all again one evening. Always up for that. Always up for chatting with Andy and anyone who wants to come on the show. So yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye on things. You might have to put up with me for the time being. I am rambling away, but what I am going to do is do a shameless plug. We've got some merchandise if you want to. There you are. That is the hard compound mug. We've also got caps and stickers. If you've got a go-kart or a toolbox or a laptop or someone's mouth you want to tape shut, we've got some stickers. So we've got all kinds of different stuff. If you want to come along, check out our posts. We can send those out to you if you like. Sharon, yeah, hope he gets back on. Want to hear about his time with West Surrey Racing. We were just about to come to that. So hopefully he'll be able to come back because it's something that I'd like to discuss with him as well. Can you do a chat with Bert Taylor? Well, Bert Taylor, for those of you who don't know, was the head man at BTC Racing in the British Touring Car Championship and in hot rods and other things. Bert's been a great supporter of the page, and he actually got us on with Chris Smiley. So I do. Oh, here he is. Bert Taylor has joined us himself. We were just talking about you, Bert. Good evening. Obviously, Bert's not been well recently, but he is on the mend, so we could certainly have a chat with Bert Taylor at some point. If you are just tuning in, Andy's had some internet issues. He was with us until about 3 or 4 minutes ago. So we're just going to wait and see if he can come back. Hopefully, it's not the end. We might have to do part 2 at some point, but we're going to sit and wait, see if Andy can stick 20p in the interview in the interview coin slot if he's got one. And as I said on an email that he sent, he says my internet's gone down. Lovely to talk to you guys this evening. Thanks very much for inviting me on the show. Speak soon. So hopefully when he says speak soon, he means in the next 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, hopefully he's going to come and join us, but you have to bear with us. There's nothing I can do, I'm afraid, folks. We're just going to have to hope that he can pop back on soon. As I mentioned just after Andy dropped off air, we've got a lot of interviews coming up. I believe we've got 11 or 12 lined up. We've got at least at least 3 interviews with guys who are involved with the British Touring Car Championship presently. We've got a huge name in the world of motorsport lined up for a couple of weeks' time. We've got an old school racer coming up soon as well. 2 of the top young racers in the country have also confirmed that they're going to come and join us, which is fantastic. Got a IndyCar legend and a motorsports legend as well, who you will recognise from Sky Sports, coming on for a chat. And we've also got a IndyCar driver who will be competing in the 500 on Sunday. That one hasn't been finalised, but conversations are going ahead. So again, I'm just going to have to sit and wait and hope that Andy comes along. We're going to give it another 3 or 4 minutes. if it's not possible for Andy to come back, we'll have to sadly draw a line under it, and we'll try and do part 2 at another time. But if we do have to go, I am gonna, when we go off air, I'm just gonna keep sitting here and see if Andy can come back. So just keep an eye on the hard compound, because we might be back soon. But yeah, unfortunately, Andy, internet issues. Hopefully he's going to be able to come back on soon. I am just hitting the refresh button on the email, just see if he can come back on, see if he's been in contact. Nothing as yet. So yeah, going to twiddle my thumbs for another few minutes, and hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us. Just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported the page. Obviously, there's been a couple of occasions where there was talk of it being discontinued, just because of you know, hard work and input versus output and all that kind of stuff. But it's still in the balance. But hopefully we're going to, hopefully we're going to be able to carry on once you've done all these interviews and things. Difan Evans, hello Difan, big touring car fan, the Welsh wizard. He said it was so good seeing fans back trackside at Brands Hatch this weekend for the British GP. Can't wait to be at Snetterton next month for the BTCC, and hopefully for better weather as well. 100% agree. 100% agree. Great to see fans back, whether it's motorsport, football, golf, cricket, whatever. Great to see fans back, and hopefully we can all get back trackside soon, and enjoy all those lovely noises and smells that Andy was talking about that got him into motorsport. Still no movement on whether Andy is going to be able to rejoin us, which is unfortunate. 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to have to call it an evening, unfortunately. But obviously it was great, great to hear from Andy, from his beginnings, when he was karting and powerboating and onto the hill climb scene, Formula Renault, Formula 3, and just the big break in the British touring car when he was nabbed by Honda and was able to go out into Europe and the world and go racing with them. And then obviously his career with BMW and a fantastic run of championships in the European and world touring cars. So that's where we got to, and hopefully we're going to be able to carry on if he can come back in the next couple of minutes. But if it's not possible, then might have to rearrange for part 2. Do bear with us. I'm going to hope he can come back. You may remember we had this with Steve Soper. He had an internet issue as well. It's these guys living in rural areas in big houses, I suppose. They have an issue. So we're going to give it 2 more minutes. As I said, apologies that Andy hasn't been able to rejoin us as yet. As I said, I'm just going to check all my correspondence with him just to see if he can come back, but I must admit it doesn't look like he's going to be able to. But keep an eye on the hard compound on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram. If you can, hit that notifications button, so whenever we post something you can tune in, because we like to think it's all good stuff. We've covered IndyCar and F1 and British touring cars, world touring cars, British superbikes, world superbikes. We try and cover everything as much as we can. So if you've got any friends and family who love their motorsport, then do come and join us. Get them to sign up, hit those notifications. John Kane, I look forward to those coming up, and I'll be staying around for this. Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate that. Not sure how much I can ramble on about things that aren't happening, but yeah, hopefully Andy will join us in the next minute or 2. But yeah, we've also got a competition coming up as a thank you for your support in the last few weeks, where we've been having a few doubts as whether we're going to be continuing or not. And if you're a BTCC fan, and particularly a fan of John Cleland, you might want to join in with this competition. We've got a few things with his autograph on, so which you can win for free. So that'd be great. It doesn't look like Andy's going to be able to come back. There's no there's nothing here on my system. There's nothing coming in on my emails, and my phone isn't lighting up. So unfortunately, folks, we're going to have to draw a line under it for this evening. Do do hang around for the next 5 or 6 minutes, even though we're off air. Just keep an eye on the hard compound, because if Andy can get back on, then we'll be back soon. Any plans for an ex or current World Rally Championship driver on for a Q&A? Diffan, that's an interesting question. We're in discussions with a rally legend, proper World Rally Championship legend. Not from England, and that's all I'm going to say, because it hasn't been confirmed. But if we can get him on, it's going to be awesome. So stick around for that. It takes a bit of work, but we're going to draw a line under it, folks. I'm really sorry. As I said, do hang around 5 or 10 minutes. Just keep refreshing on the hard compound on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and because we might be back. But if not, my apologies. Do give us a follow. Keep hitting those like buttons on the posts, because that's what keeps us going. And if we're not back in the next 5 or 10 minutes, then we will be back soon, hopefully with part 2 for Andy Priaulx. So apologies. Sometimes technology isn't our friend, but thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to Andy for the time that he was able to come on, and hopefully we'll be back soon. So yeah, stick with us, and if we're not back soon, we will see you very soon. We do have another interview coming up in 10 days' time, which will be announced this week. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers.